Siama related to the collapse of UT Bank and Unibank. In fact, we've seen the Attorney General's office also dropped charges against the former NDC chair, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo. And let's go straight onto the magic wall right now. And Dennis Baberi-Wadam, Esquire, is joining me right now. Dennis, let's run through these cases that the AG says the state is not interested in pursuing again.
Well, so like you rightly mentioned, those are the cases that the AG has decided to discontinue against the said accused person. So we have the case of Kesela Tuforsen in respect of the ambulance case, a very popular case that we followed all through. We also have the case against Dr. Johnson Esema, former second deputy governor of Bank of Ghana. That case, now we have also been told that charges against him in particular have been dropped. Now, mind you, in his case, he was amongst 6 other people in respect of the UT Bank case. So charges in that respect have been dropped against him. In the matter of Unibank, he was also accused together with 8 other people. Right. But the charges against him in particular have been dropped.
Right.
So what it effectively means is that if the charges against the other people have not been dropped, the case would proceed with those people still named as accused persons.
Excluding Dr. Johnson Esema.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Then there's also the case against the former NDC chair, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, in respect of the leak tip. Now, we're also understanding that the AG has decided to discontinue that particular matter. Alfred, you may have heard the expression that prosecution is a political decision.
Indeed.
What that effectively means is that it is the Attorney General who initiates criminal prosecutions. They decide which cases to pursue, because there are so many cases that the AG would have to make a choice as to which ones they think they can pursue for various reasons. Unfortunately, they are not under any obligation to indicate when they want to discontinue a particular case. So, I mean, it's just a right that the Attorney General's department and the Attorney General himself has in respect of such matters. There's also the case of Dr. Stephen Opuni and then businessman Seydou Agongo. The charges against the two have also been dropped. And if you look at this case, it has traveled for a very long time with different twists and turns, all through allegations of bias. At a point, there were descriptions that it was more of persecution than prosecution. But we've come to a point where the Attorney General says that, look, we cannot proceed with this particular matter. We want to discontinue the matter. So effectively, that matter too has also been withdrawn.
It's been almost, 7 years now running?
Yes, 7 years. This matter started from 2018, yes, where they were charged with 27 counts in respect of some 217 million through some fertilizer procurement matters. So that is the matter they've had to deal with. I mean, so when they appeared before the court, their plea were taken, they pleaded not guilty. By the time prosecution closed its case, they filed a submission of no case. That was dismissed. It progressed. I mean, prosecution called close to 7 witnesses to testify in that particular matter. Dr. Opuni opened his case. He also declined to testify personally, but he called as many as 10 witnesses to also testify.
Interesting stuff. But you know that this case has a number of legs, is it not?
Yes.
Because of the impact it had on the closure of Heritage Bank. This Bank of Ghana, amongst the 5 reasons they cited for the closure of Heritage Bank was the fact that the capital used to establish the bank was from a questionable source, and they linked it to Seydou Agongo's involvement in this particular case. And
precisely
as a result,
yes,
they closed that particular bank.
Yes. So that was the crux of or some of the reasons that were given by the Bank of Ghana for revoking the licenses of the Heritage Bank. Because like you rightly indicated, there were questions as to the source of funding for the establishment of that bank. They thought that the money was tainted. In fact, in the words of the Bank of Ghana, they said the requirement is that for you to get a license, the money should come from an acceptable source. What that acceptable source is means that it should be money from a lawful source, and in that it should not be acquired through money laundering. But they suspected that that money was not clean money, just to put it loosely. Alfred, it's also important for us to also indicate that it was also in respect of this particular matter that at the point where prosecution had closed its case, the trial judge was changed. So the new judge who came to take over the case had said that he was not going to continue the trial, that he was going to start the trial de novo. What it means is that they were going to start the trial afresh so that he could appreciate the demeanor of the witnesses and all that. it became a matter of contention. That was taken to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal said that, no, you can't do that. Go back, adopt the proceedings, and continue from there. That bit of the case was also appealed to the Supreme Court. We are back at the High Court where the second accused person, Seydou Agongo, was now defending or opening his defense.
Right.
I understand he was bringing in a ninth witness. That was when this particular withdrawal notice was put before the court to say that the Attorney General is no longer interested in the case. It has a lot of legs. If you want to stay on this particular matter, I mean, there are a lot of it.
Well, and whether it's even going to even impact on that verdict by the Bank of Ghana on Heritage Bank, because then if this case then is discontinued, does it now legitimize the source of funds for the establishment of that bank, which license was withdrawn? I mean, it's an extension of the conversation we can have.
And those questions will definitely come up, especially when the court has not specifically made pronouncements as to whether, I mean, as the verdict of guilt or not guilty. This is a withdrawal matter. So there will be questions as to whether the money in question will now be deemed to be lawful money, for which reason it can come back to go through the process again to see if the bank can be brought back. But those are matters that may come up in the coming days.
Well, let's bring in Justice Abdullah. He's a private legal practitioner. He's a law lecturer at the University of Professional Studies, Accra Law School. Justice Abdullah, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. I mean, the decision to discontinue these high-profile cases by the Attorney General surprise you, or because of the nature of this case and the path it had traveled, this discontinuation was really a matter of time and not so much of whether it was really going to happen?
Indeed, for those that are politically exposed, I did expect this outcome. I mean, Alfred, the previous administration campaigned largely on the corrupt activities of the JM administration. And all of us sang the song, believing that indeed JM's administration was the most corrupt administration at the time. And so naturally, when the Kufuor-led administration was ushered into office, the psychology was that it had to do something for us to believe that indeed the administration it took over from was a corrupt one. And automatically, one would expect that there will be a lot of high-profile cases against the then administration. Events clearly demonstrated that we were all hoodwinked into believing that the first JM administration was indeed the most corrupt one. And unfortunately, we bought into this song, and the governments, of course, are unable to find any cogent evidence to back the claims that it made against the JM administration. Naturally, how to just put everyone it could find something, however unreasonable or unnecessary it may be, put the person to court. Indeed, I'm not surprised that some of them call their prosecution persecution and witch hunting and among other nomenclatures and phrases that they refer to their prosecution. I'm not surprised about those ones. And some of them were indeed needless. Some of the prosecutions were needless. And if you see the attempts by the Attorney General at the time at to get Atuk Forcing in particular and Japa in prison, it's lent to the suspicion that this was just to push a particular narrative. The prosecution was just to push a particular narrative, which is the narrative that we had all been made to believe that the previous JM administration was the most corrupt and what was corrupt and all of that. And so these were just to fit into those narratives. I mean, these prosecutions were to fit into those narratives. And I think that is what led to all these other stalemate in the prosecution of people. So, indeed, if you ask me whether I am surprised or not, I am with the decision made by the new Attorney General. As a matter of fact, I am the least surprised. In fact, if there's anything that I'm surprised about, it is the fact that we still have Afoko in custody. Afoko I have consistently prayed for Afoko's release on every ground that you can advance in his favor. I mean, I think if within the Fourth Republican Constitution, he's the most. He has suffered the most in under our criminal jurisprudence, having been in custody for almost the entire period of his persecution. This time I borrow these words that I'm continuously praying that my learned senior, Dr. Ayini, would take a second look at the Afoko's case and possibly enter a nolle prosequi in favor of that gentleman, just as he has done for these decent men and women of our country. I think.
Right, and you talk about Gregory Afoko for that matter. And, well, we'll see how the coming days will look like on this, but I thank you very much. The next leg of this conversation is how all of this impacts on the judiciary going forward. But thank you. Justice Abdullahi is going to be with us tomorrow as well. He's a lecturer at the UPSA Law School, private legal practitioner. Then as well, we round up very quickly on this, Dr. Kasiela, 2 force in 1. Yes.
So that case now is off the table. We do know that.
Right.
I mean, as at the time prosecution closed its case in June 2023, the accused persons had filed a submission of no case. That's to say that prima facie case had not been established against them. That was dismissed. So they took that in appeal at the Court of Appeal. It was that appeal which saw the reversal of the High Court's decision, which effectively meant that they were discharged and acquitted.
Right.
Prosecution was dissatisfied with that particular decision by the Court of Appeal, so they further appealed to the Supreme Court. So in respect of Kessler to Forsen and Richard Japa, this case was pending before the Court of Appeal because of the nature of the case. Now we're also being told that that case has also been withdrawn. So we are back to default setting to say that the Court of Appeal decision, which acquitted and discharged them, is what holds now.
Has been upheld. So all of this had the leak tape and everything.
Yes,
in there.
And the many things.
But in effect, the state loses, right, with this over 2 million euros gone.
We'll see how that pans out.
Thank you very much. And Dennis Poberi-Wadam is my colleague here, and also the producer here on Ghana Tonight. It's a private legal practitioner. And on behalf of the rest of the team, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Join us same time tomorrow for another conversation. My name is Alfred Okanse. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding,